15 years old, 10 minutes to save the world. This is E-RATIC. Welcome to another edition of Pants Optional, this Pop Cult HQ's Zoom interview segment where we speak with comic book creators and talk about their latest projects and get the lowdown, but from the waist up. I'm Jason Bennett, chief editor of popculthq.com. My guest today is a comic book writer and an award-winning artist, as well as a filmmaker. He's written and illustrated such Marvel comic properties as the X-Men, Spider-Man, Iron Fist, the Incredible Hulk. He has a hearty list of cover artwork to his credit, and currently he's produced E-RATIC, a new 5-issue miniseries at AWA Studios, which debuted on December 2nd, and we'll see issue 2 drop on January 13th. Please welcome the writer-artist extraordinaire, Kaare Andrews. Kaare, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, and a great pronunciation of the first name, which is always a surprise.
You know, I'm real funny about that. It's kind of a pet peeve of mine. I always want to make sure I pronounce people's names right. And I know people that similar to you. Well, actually, you know, what's funny is with you also, I had the same thing with Kaare Randolph.
Yes.
I noticed both of you guys have Kaare like Atari. You mentioned how it rhymes on your social media platforms, but no, it's important that I know a number of people who just let it slide, and it's like, no, you know, yeah. I want to get it right. I want to get it right for you.
We are the two Kaares of comic books.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Have you guys ever worked on anything together?
We did, yeah. I created and wrote a one-shot, The Manga vs. Spider-Man, and then the miniseries, Scotty Young drew issues 1 to 4, and then he jumped off to another project, and the other Kaare jumped on to draw issue 5 of Spider-Man Mangaverse back in the day. So that was written and drawn by Kaare, but 2 separate Kaares. So that was pretty fun. He's a great guy and a good artist. I'd love to work with him again sometime.
Oh, that's great, man. That's cool. You guys are able to connect like that. Hey, let's talk about your new title, E-RATIC. I've read it a couple of times through now. It's electric. It's a lot of fun. It's got a lot of charm. It has heart. There's comedy thrown in. Fantastic delivery, and it's a real refreshing take on, you know, a boy receives superpowers tale. In E-RATIC, your lead character Oliver Leaf just gets a taste of superheroism. Give us a quick take on your story and just what exactly is a reborn.
Well, a reborn exists in a world that was set up by J. Michael Straczynski, and that is a global pandemic. If you could let your imagination fly, what that might be like. But in this situation, some people get superpowers because of the virus. So my book connects to his series It lives in the same world. It doesn't reference it at all. It's its own thing, but it lives in that universe. And part of my challenge was to create a fun kind of like uplifting teen superhero that could also exist in that crazy situation. So there's a lot of I wanted to make it. I wanted to have a lot of comedy. I wanted to have like, there's still some stuff to deal with for sure, as every teenage life is one of misery and excommunication, despair, and just trying to find friends and just trying to survive. It was a lot of fun. I really what I was focusing on was creating like what is like when I was growing up. It was kind of in the 80s, and it was kind of like those to me were like the archetypal superheroes. They were crazy costumes. They were archetypal heroic figures that had archetypal values and archetypal roles. And they were like, it was right before the deconstruction of the superheroes that kind of started with the Watchmen and Dark Knight, and then kind of just fell down that hole of deconstruction in the 90s and the 2000s. And I really felt like I wanted to create a book that kind of put those feelings in me that I had when I was reading books. Emotional, serious, dangerous, funny, but like we're like straight up superhero tales. Like I wanted a straight up experience of like a kid gets a power and saves the world. Like that's what I wanted. And I just kind of threw that in the air, and it came to me all at once. I wanted an animal-based superhero. I wanted something with energy. So E-RATIC just kind of jumped at me. And then immediately I was like, oh my goodness, I can create a superhero with a tail and ears. And like in today's world, that is, I think, the most subversive superhero you can make. An archetypal superhero with animal-based powers, an animal name, but in a new way. Like I just started really jiving on this idea of like subverting the superhero genre by returning to an archetypal superhero. I just became fascinated with that idea in my head, and was just trying to see where that went. And this is where we ended up.
And it's amazing what you put together in this first issue. It's so beautifully illustrated too. I mean, there's a lot of definitions. You've created these memorable looking characters, and you've really given them each really such distinct personalities, which really help define them in the first issue. And plus you're taking on maybe people don't know, you're taking on both workloads of writing and illustrations on this. Not your first time doing such, but it's quite a workload still. I'm kind of curious, was there some aspect of filling both roles that was really enjoyable for you in being both the illustrator and the writer?
Yeah. So when I was growing up, my favorite comic book creators just happened to be the writer-artists, whether it was Frank Miller or Todd McFarlane or Howard Chaykin or Jim Steranko from the 60s. Like all these guys just happened to be writer-artists, and they all shared a strange kind of almost dreamlike quality to their work sometimes, because I love working with a great writer too. I love drawing. I've worked with some great writers like Mark Millar, Warren Ellis, Zeb Wells. Like when I get to draw great writing, it's amazing. It's fun. And I love to act out the story someone tells me. When you're pencil comics, you're basically telling the story that someone else told you. You're performing the story that someone else is whispering into your ear. But what happens when you dissolve those barriers between those jobs is you're no longer retelling the story you heard before. That whole story is manifesting at once. And what happens, I find what happens is it can get almost a bit dreamlike at times, because everything's not so, like when I'm penciling a story that someone else wrote, he's explaining to me the story, and then I'm almost explaining it to him the way I heard it. Oh, I think you meant this. And oh, I think you meant this. And I really think you wanted to underline this. And then he takes it and he may even rework the dialogue to like really make it clear to the reader. But when there's no back and forth, it's almost like it's just like you're not re-explaining things so often. You're just kind of like creating. You're just kind of manifesting, and that weird energy of manifesting creative storytelling that just happens through one source, to me, is my favorite kind of story. And it's just the intangible feel of it. Just to me, just feels like it's just, you cannot recreate it. with a team. You just can't do it. I mean, having said that, I'm working with an amazing colorist, Brian Reber, and he's doing an amazing job. But it's really the writing and the penciling. When those can be the same job, the experience is different, I think.
And and I think maybe that's kind of what I was really feeling from it. There is that kind of energy to it that it's a very cohesive union between the writing and illustrations that it just kind of almost jumps off the pages. And speaking of your colorists, now's the time when we plug your collaborators and give you an opportunity to share what they bring to your project. So that sounds good.
Yeah, sure.
So on E-RATIC, like you said, on colors, you're working with Brian Reber.
Yeah, Brian's great. I've known Brian for a very long time, but this is the first time we've ever actually worked together. And I initially was going to try to color this myself too, but then I felt like I wanted to take a step back and focus more on having the art be of a certain quality. I mean, every time you can do all the jobs yourself, but every time you try to do all the jobs, you have to incorporate a bit of a hit. So I didn't want to do that this time. I wanted to try to draw it as well as I could. So Axel and I were talking, and Brian's name came up, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I'd love to work with Brian." So we approached him. He jumped on board, and he's doing some great work. He's really fun. His colors are great. I get back the pages, and I often re-ink the line art over his colors because it's a great refresher to see them colored so well, and all my mistakes pop out at me. And because of digital technology, I can actually I can ingest the colors and then re-ink new re-inks on top of the colored pages, which you could never do before. It's kind of like a new, now you can because of technology, but in the past, even when I broke in, that would never happen. So that's been fun. That's been really fun to do. He's a great guy, a great colorist.
Hey, that's great to be able to work with him like that. And on lettering, the talented Sal Cipriano.
Yeah, no, the letters are great. Those are great. Crisp and clean, and everything in the right place. It's been great. I've never lettered before. That's always a job I hand off to someone more talented than me in the department. So
it's surprisingly, I've had to do a lot of digging and learning about it, and a lot more into it than you realize. It could be a little overwhelming. So E-RATIC, though labeled as a teen rating, it truly is an all ages book from what I found in reading it. It doesn't feel targeted to a small subset of like 12 to 17-year-olds, and this is, your audience. It really comes across as a story which can be enjoyed by children of all ages, adults, even something families could even read together. It just felt that way throughout. That I picked up on that. And I'm enjoying this at 47 years old. And even though it's a little high school, scene or scenario, it was, there's a lot that you can relate and enjoy in it. When developing this title, whom were you most hoping to reach with your book, and how has the response been since issue 1 dropped earlier this month?
Well, I think I have zero interest in creating a YA book or a YA title or a YA anything. I mean, my favorite creators of all time, whether it's Walt Disney or Todd McFarlane, I mean, they create a product, even Frank Miller, they're creating products for everyone to enjoy. And so when I think of the audience for the book, that's a very tricky question. Ultimately, when you create things, you have to have yourself as the audience first, because through thine eyes, you know the world. And so ultimately, I have to create something that I would want to read. And if I'm not creating something that I don't want to read, then it won't be any good at all. Having said that, some of the works I've done in the past have been very mature and very adult and very violent and very horrific, whether it's Renato Jones or even Iron Fist. Like I've got kids now, and trying to have them leaf through those books is a little bit embarrassing. It's that they're too young. They're too young. They're like 9 and 7 and 4, and it's like, I wanted a book that I could have lying around, that if they were thumbing through, I wouldn't have to hide any pages. It's a book for, my favorite heroes like Spider-Man has always been one of my favorites, and he was not created for kids. He was created for comic book readers of any age. So that's why someone, you can enjoy Spider-Man when you're 7, you can enjoy Spider-Man when you're 13, you can enjoy Spider-Man when you're 20, you can enjoy him when you're 40, you can enjoy him when you're 60. And I really wanted to create that kind of an archetypal like experience that really respected a comic book reader, specifically someone interested in core archetypal superheroes, but was not focused on any particular demographic within that. Not interested in creating a book for this person or that person or that person. I wanted to create a book that was like, I don't know how to say it, a little bit pure. Like it was encompassed everything, but was singular. I don't know how to explain it, but I wanted something that everyone could enjoy, but without trying to please everyone. So it's this weird balance of you're up at bat and you want a clean hit, get your home run. So I don't know. You can see I'm struggling myself with like what that means. Like, what does it mean to create?
No, that's okay. And I've only read the first issue, but
yeah.
I get what you're saying. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think I get what you're saying. The way you're trying to reach people, and
here's what I have to say. I think the world right now is so divided, and there's so much pressure to be like, hey, you're in that group, you're in that group, you're in that group, you're in that group, and you're all at war with each other. And I just think that's so not where I'm at. And I just think, even trying to target your books to this group or that group or that group misses the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is that we're all together and we're all a big family. And sometimes we can enjoy the same thing. And I wanted to create that kind of experience, a cool book that everyone could kind of like, but without trying to please any particular group within that situation.
Well, people are definitely going to get that experience. You can go out and pick up issue 1 right now at your local comic shop and favorite online retailers. Hey, on this first issue, you provided cover art for the main cover, the A cover, as well as I've already seen the 5 covers for the whole miniseries. But you also had a variant by Mike Deodato Jr. and a store exclusive with John Boy Myers. Are you planning on more variants as well with other artists or other AWA Studios creators?
That's really more in AWA's court. I don't think there are any variants lined up. I love variant covers. And, part of my goal with the E-RATIC was to create a book and a character that other creators could take a swing at. Like a Wolverine or like some kind of archetypal. Like I would love to see some of my favorite creators do a run at E-RATIC. Like nothing would make me happier than to see what's the Frank Miller E-RATIC look like, or what's the what's the Travis Charest E-RATIC look like, or what's the any of these.
And that's what I liked about that first issue. I saw the comparisons. I saw John Boy's take on the character, and it was like it's nice seeing that, and especially it's got to be for you, for a character that you've created, having an artist give their take on it.
Yeah, I really wanted to create a character like what kind of character could exist on your pajamas when you were 9, but also be like a comic you could love reading in your 50s. Like what's that weird sweet spot where you're it's just like what can exist there, and I didn't try to like deconstruct it. I really just threw what I wanted up into the universe and then caught whatever rained back down on me.
Awesome. Something I noticed for the debut of E-RATIC #1, you did a signing with Comic Scene in Surrey, BC. Do you plan on any more signings for future issues? Or I know with this pandemic and
there's nothing lined up. Basically, I live in BC, so they just reached out to me, and it wasn't a very long drive, so it was fun to be able to do that. I hadn't even thought of it, to be honest, because I'm kind of like locked in my studio and just drawing the book. I hadn't really thought that would even be thing. So it was fun. It was fun to jump out there and, we did it, before hours. And so there wasn't like a store full of people. It was just me and the guys selling some books, but that was a lot of fun.
The lack of conventions and signing appearances and stuff like that. I mean, I've seen, a handful of creators who have, tried to at least pop into their local store, maybe make some copies available for autographs. So I saw that. So I thought that was pretty cool.
But when I was a kid, I grew up in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada, where there was one comic book artist, great guy, Tom Grummett, but there wasn't like any more. And I remember when I was 13, or maybe 10 or something, 11, I don't know how old I was, maybe 13. My dad drove me to Vancouver, Canada, and we just stopped at a comic book store in downtown Vancouver, Golden Age. I walked inside and I saw a Todd McFarlane signed Spider-Man poster, and I was so blown away that it was just there. Like my favorite artist was just here, and was just normal price. They were just selling this. He just stopped in and signed a bunch, I guess. It was such a fun experience. And then even in Saskatoon, Tom would sign a few comics at the local store I would shop at, and just finding those hand signatured comic books or posters just randomly amongst the pack was so fun for me. Like every time I can, I love to just, like, I don't like to charge for signatures, but I love to like sign a few at a store and have them on the shelves, like just normal priced, hiding amongst the others. Like to me, that was so fun to find those as a kid. Like, I love the idea of doing that stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And it's something special and yeah, it's really great. And actually, it's funny you bring that up. This isn't actually the first time we've actually connected. I think last time I met you actually was at Emerald City Comic Con 2017.
Yeah.
I got Renato Jones, the 1% #1 signed from you. That had come out
Nice.
6 months or something, for 9 months before, but just briefly just came through. I was covering the show for Pop Call HQ, and I just had to. You were one of the creators. I made sure I brought a comic to sign. But hey, before we wrap, now's a part of the segment we call Pitch Your Project, giving you one last wrap up to promote your book and tell the fans why they need E-RATIC in their life. So, Kaare Andrews, Pitch Your Project.
That's the worst. Okay, here's what I'll say. 15 years old, 10 minutes to save the world. This is a kid who has the powers of the world's worst cell phone battery. They only last for 10-minute spurts. It takes a 24-hour recharge cycles. For those 10 minutes, he can do amazing things. For every other minute of the day, he's completely powerless, vulnerable, and exposed. And I thought, what a fun way to relate to my own life of bad cell phones and bad cell phone batteries by putting those same restrictions. You get lost when you're lost in traffic and you're relying on your phone to guide you from home and you have no batteries left, or you're waiting for an email and your phone's dying. Like that's a stressful experience. So I thought, can I put that stressful experience, that everyday experience, into a superhero situation? And it just kind of came to me like, okay, yeah, he's got energy-based powers that last 10 minutes in a day, and he's going to wait. Like maybe he'll get stuck up on a building, or maybe it'll be 9 minutes and 59 seconds, and he has 1 second left to save the girl, or something, something like that. Like I just felt like that was a fun thing I hadn't seen before.
It comes off beautifully. Like I said, great ending to the first issue too. Definitely go out and pick up issue 1 at your local comic book shop and favorite online retailers now, and find out what happened at the first issue and the big kind of cliffhanger. And then pick up issue 2 when it drops on January 13th. Issue number 3, which will be available February 10th, is currently in previews. So thank you so much, Kaare Andrews, for being on the show. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. And we love what you're doing, man. We're getting excited for E-RATIC.
Awesome.